car's underway. Stamps his authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that.
It just all comes down to this.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Almost Pro Championship. We are here for round one this evening here at Australia. Should be a very nice race indeed. We'll see how the drivers cope with things and getting things underway. And I can already see in the chat from one of the drivers in the Discord, we are going to have a wet race this evening. It should be very interesting indeed. My name is Max Ring. I'll be taking you through all of this evening's action, and it should be a very interesting one indeed. Round one of the season just about to get underway, and of course with all of this we have a full season ahead of us, and we shall quickly take you through the calendar now as the drivers just getting underway for the outlaps now. I'll take you through what the drivers can be expecting this season. So we head underway here, of course, at Australia, 19th of August, before making a trip over to Japan next week. Then we head to Sakir for round 3, followed by a trip to Imola, Austria, which is a sprint race. Then we have Silverstone, Belgium, Zandvoort, Azerbaijan, and then round 10 being Singapore, which is also another sprint race. Then we head to Texas, Brazil, Qatar, and then we end off the season at Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. It should be a very, very interesting and nice season ahead of us. Many drivers still trying to make their claim for this championship. And now heading through the final corners, we now head track side. We shall head on board with Daniel Riley as he gets underway for the first lap of the season. So here we are then with the Mercedes driver, now just heading through turns 1 and 2. Nicely done through there. He's got the DRS open, now heading down into turn 3. Late on the brakes from the Mercedes man. We'll see what he can do. Nice exit there from Riley as he now exits out through turn 5 and into the turn 6 and 7 and then 8 right hand. Of course, could be purple in that first sector, with it being his first lap of the session and the first lap of the evening. And now heading into that middle sector split, down to 7th gear, then flick the car through, maybe a little bit too high torque for that 7th gear, not enough revs getting through the car, a little bit sluggish off the 9 and 10 chicane as you head into turn 11, late on the brakes once more, down to 3rd gear, slowly bring that power back up, shift up through the gears once more, make sure you keep this lap nice and valid. So for Daniel Riley, now heading into the penultimate, which then leads him into the final corner. What will the Mercedes do? This is the benchmark for the evening. This is what everybody is going to be trying to get across the line. He goes, it's a 17.198. Who is going to come close to or potentially beat that? As I think we have one of the Williams cars coming up to the line. Yes, it's Stewart now heading up to the line. What can he do? Can he come anywhere near Riley's lap time? Oh, just about a second and a half shy. So if we have more drivers starting their laps, we can see who will come out on top, as that's Stevens now going up to first. The Mercedes driver displaces his Mercedes teammate by over half a second. A brilliant lap time there from the Mercedes of Pro Stevens. And that's exactly how he would have wanted to start this one. But of course, with a wet race ahead, setups could certainly be all throughout the window. And it could be into very interesting times indeed. So then, as we head back over to the laps being set by the drivers, we can see who potentially could be next on a lap time. Seems to kick Sauber, heading now into 9 and 10. Let's see what he can do. Now heading into that final corner now. What's it going to be? Across the line he goes. It's only a 19.4, not a great lap time there. From Jedi. Sorry, was going to say, I'll try find the drivers' names, but unfortunately, for some reason, I can't access it. So I'm going to have to use the gamer tags. So next on a lap time is going to be Wire Happy. Now heading through the left hand and then the right of turn 5. So let's see what he can do as the two actual Ferraris have actually gone up into second and third fastest. Look how close it is at the top of the time between Stevens and Senik for that pole position spot. Just under 300ths of a second separating the pair. So for Happy as he's now heading into the left-hander of turns 9 and 10. DRS now back open once again. A lot of these drivers electing to keep it in 7th gear. It's going to ruin their momentum ever so slightly out of the corners. And he's got a little bit wide as well there onto the gravel and has aborted that lap time. That is unfortunate there for Happy. I will be joined alongside, hopefully at some point this evening, your main commentator for this evening, Joseph Black, as we now are on board with Kyle. Let's see what he can do now on his lap. A lot of these drivers are a little bit diverse throughout the field. Some drivers in those 9 teams, when of course the quickest drivers in the 16s are 3 seconds off the pace, but of course setups can play a big factor in all of this. Dry setups versus potential wet ones, knowing we have a wet race on our hands. As I think that was Stewart potentially jumping himself a little bit further up the order into that 5th place on a 17.3, so has found an improvement from his previous lap time. Was in the 18s, now back into those 17s, so finding time wherever he goes. But for Kyle, now heading through the right-hander and into turn 12. Now let's see what the McLaren has to offer, heading up into that penultimate corner, down to 3rd gear. Slowly bring that car back round to the left to try to give you the best run through the final corner as possible. Don't want to drop the rear through there. DRS open for Kyle. What's this lap time going to be? Can he throw it up into that top 5 across the line? No, just misses out and goes 6th fastest. So for Kyle, we'll just have to back off and go again on a fresh set of boots once he comes into pit lane. Happy is has actually aborted his next attempt, so he won't be going again. Senik looking to try and take that pole position away from Stevens at the front of the field. Now potentially do that in this lap, but of course Stevens just behind him is also going to be wanting to extend that advantage or strike back instantly if the Ferrari is able to snatch his pole position away. So now heading into that first sector split. Are we up or down with the Ferrari? We're up by exactly what he needs. It's just under 400ths of a second. And we'll see now, heading into that middle sector split, has he found more time throughout the course of this middle sector? Of course, an easy sector compared to the rest, but super difficult to get the corner right and not invalidate. And he's up by 0.2 of a second. If we compare that to Stevens, he's up by 0.3 of a second. We're going to have a proper shootout for pole here, ladies and gentlemen. Late on the brakes, heading into turn 11 before we then flick it through the right-hander at 12. A little lift off the throttle, bring the car out wide, straight back over to the right-hand side to slam the brakes. Down to third gear, once again using all the road Sennek possibly can. This Ferrari trying to do everything to snatch his pole position away. He will take it potentially, and he does. Provisionally snatch it away, 0.4 up. But here comes Stevens to the line. Can he snatch it back into his grasps? Yes, he can. And he's kept that gap around about the same, 0.03. Still ahead of Sennek. Did find, I think, identical improvements overall in terms of pace, but Stevens just sees himself come out on top. So as this battle for pole rages on, that was the Aston Martin of 21 Closer Garlic, now heading himself up into 6th place. Nice lap time from the Aston Martin, and Happy still going around on the circuit, but just seeming to be a little bit further off compared to the rest. I think he's actually out of fuel as well as Happy, so I don't know why he's kept circulating the circuit with that issue. So as we now gear up for those final runs of qualifying, we are going to see if Stevens can hold on to this provisional pole. Could somebody come from absolutely nowhere to see themselves snatch that provisional pole away? Or are we going to see Sennek bring that challenge to the Mercedes with one more stab at the cherry, one more go before we end off qualifying? See now who heads out on top. So we've got Stewart on an outlap, same with Mr. Tadu as well. Who's the further round? It is going to be Stewart, the first driver to start these final runs of the session. Of course, here in Australia, with the difference with that dry and wet setup, if that could be the reason for some of the pace losses, that downforce, and especially down that back straight, you'll be hemorrhaging a lot of time, about 3 to 0.4 of a second, depending on how heavy that downforce is for the wet race. So it's going to be extremely difficult for these drivers to manage as well. Of course, with the rain, adds that extra threat of potential incidents or just overall, unfortunately, coming to blows with the walls or each other, or just seeing himself spin around. But for Stewart, he begins the final runs here in qualifying. Let's see what the Williams driver has to offer. Found a 1.2 second improvement on that previous lap, and he spun already before he even get the lap underway. Heading through turn 1, he has spun round, and unfortunately that lap's going to be over, but luckily I think he'll be fueled up for enough to be able to get this one across the line and to get a second attempt at this final lap. Mr. Tadu on, he's up a little bit of a tight line heading through turn 1. That's going to give him the best runs out of the corners. We now head up into turn 3, late on the brakes once more, down to second gear. You then want to bring that car through the corner nice and easily. Just make sure you don't run wide and across those track limits, not using all the extremities of the circuit. So Tadu is really leaving some time on the board. He's up by 2.5 of a second. We'll see if he can carry on at this rate of improvement and could potentially get a nice slipstream off his teammate of Stewart GB. As you can see there, Stewart, ooh, there's a little bit potentially of, could have been some contact there between the pair. They were daring at it. 0.4 up now is Tadu. And now out of turns 9 and 10. DRS open for the Williams man. Heading into turn 11 now, late on the brakes once more. Make sure you keep it away from the gravel on the left hand side like we saw Happy do. Unfortunately just going a little bit too far deep. Now heading into the penultimate corner is Tadu. Is he going to be able to find himself up at least one place in front of Krypton, or is he just going to have to unfortunately see himself stay in 10th place? DRS Open up to the line now, and he stays 10th fastest. Unfortunate there for the Williams man, and that's the best he's going to be doing for this session. And he'll stay 10th fastest. So back over to his teammate of Stewart, who is trying to find that improvement. I think he's actually backed off again to go for a another outlap here to just really put those tyres into an optimum window. So Stewart could be one a little bit later on to keep our eye out for, because he certainly could pose a threat on those front runners, and he is backing out of the way. 21 Closer Garlic has just crossed the line, didn't find an improvement on his lap, so he won't be going quicker. Now on board with Jedi, who's on his lap time now, heading through the left-hander of turn 4. Currently on 19.4, surely a lot of time left in the bag for him. As you can see already, up by half a second in that first sector. And now heading through the right-hander of turn 8. Big DRS Open now. As we head down that back straight into turns 9 and 10. Let's see this middle sector improvement from the Kick Sauber. He's nearly up by a second at this point. Could he potentially break into that top 9 or even further up the order if he can carry on this rate of improvement? We'll switch over to that Senek and Stevens battle for pole position in a few moments' time. We'll keep on board currently with the Kick Sauber. Now heading through the penultimate corner, a little bit sluggish through there. And into the final corner now. What's it going to be for Jedi? Through the final corner, DRS Open for the Kick Sauber. Will he see himself break into that top 9, or will he just fall short? Across the line he goes. He just falls short by a 10th of a second and goes 10th fastest. On board a Ferrari of Senek, he's up by a 10th in that middle sector. Compare that to Stevens, who's just heading through the first sector split, and he's already up by a 10th and a half. This could be really tense times between the pair, and once again the Ferrari could snatch it away from the Mercedes, but just fall oh so short in the dying embers. And unfortunately for Senek, it is looking like that is going to be happening, and that is going to be the possible outcome. DRS Open for the Ferrari, now heading up to the line. What's it going to be for Saniki? He heads into that provisional pole. 3.5 tenths found in that final sector. Brilliant lap time from the Ferrari, but now we switch over to Pro Stevens. Happy up into third, finally able to get that lap time on the board. Shaq then into third. Now he displaced the V-Cub. Here comes Stevens. Can he jump even higher than Saniq? No, unfortunately he wasn't able to find that time, and the Ferrari at the very end was able to grab a last gasp pole position. A brilliant lap time there from the Scuderia as they see themselves onto pole, but not by much. Less than a 10th separating that top 2. And they now see themselves, unfortunately, with a lot of work on their hands. And this is your order for this evening's race. It's Senek from Stevens and Shack Attack. Happy, Daniel Riley, Stewart, Kyle, Krypton, Jedi, Tadu, and Demon Mossop, who of course had a qualifying ban from a that was not able to be made last season. So for Senek, a dream pole position, a 10th and a half clear of Stevens. Exactly what he would want heading into the race now. So here we are on to the circuit, and you can see very damp conditions indeed. I think we might actually see the full wets come out to play here this evening for what should be a very interesting race indeed. Of course, qualifying didn't really mean much for this evening's race, with of course the difference in car setups. It certainly is now going to be an interesting one indeed. And we're going to see who comes out on top in this race. Will it be Saniq or will it be the Mercedes of Stevens, or will someone else who's favoured the higher downforce find themselves on top here this evening? So as we're waiting for that command to get underway, so as we're waiting for the drivers to prepare to get underway, of course, very tense times. The first race of the season. Let's quickly take you through the calendar if we do have enough time. If the drivers don't ready up just before then. Of course, it is here in Australia this evening before we make a trip to Suzuka for round 2. Sakira is round 3 for Bahrain, and we head over to Europe for Imola. But we're about to get underway now, so let's see the drivers take to action. I say that, we've got a formation lap. I did not know that, in all honesty. Did not know there was a formation lap on this evening. And actually does help Shaq, who has unfortunately disconnected, so he's able to join back into the session. So he should be very grateful that there is a formation lap. But looking at the tyres, everybody's gone for the extreme wets apart from Happy, who, being on those intermediates, I think that's a bit of a risky play here. The track looking very, very wet indeed. A lot of moisture around this circuit. And we could see Happy potentially struggling. We'll see how he is on this formation lap. You can just see how much water, how much standing water is on that circuit. And it can really cause some big issues, especially on tyres like that, if they're not able to withstand that water, withstand the pressure. And you'll see yourself aquaplaning off the road. Of course, Shaq in front has unfortunately disconnected, so he should be back by the time the race starts, but might lose a few positions from the get-go. But we do have a long old race to go, and anything can happen. It can dry up, and that could then work into Happy's favour. So, as the drivers now line up on the grid. Who will be victorious in this opening round of the season? Will one of the drivers on pole be able, will one of the drivers on the front row, should I say, sorry, be able to convert for this race victory? Or will it be somebody else? As you can see, Stevens angling his car very aggressively, and we are underway for the first race of the season here in Australia. And it's a good start from the Ferrari Saniki as we head down into turn 1. But Stevens instantly takes it into that first corner on the inside line. A brilliant launch from the Mercedes. He jumps that Scuderia Ferrari, and Happy has been able to move himself up into third place. Let's have a look at this scrap between him and Shaq as they head into turn 3. Late on the brakes from the V car. He goes a little little bit deep, and that's actually allowed Daniel Riley to now potentially capitalise on this one. To the outside goes the Mercedes. A little bit of contact made. There's cars off the road in the background. That's Jedi and Shack Attack, and look at that from Happy. He's unfortunately dropped back down to 4th, but he's done well to keep it on the road on this opening tour. I think there was some damage flying off in the background, but it's a dream start for Daniel Riley, who's moved himself up to 4th place from 5th, and now Stewart as well, climbing his way up the order. Many a driver on those wet weather tyres seeming to be liking these conditions, and Stevens with a dream gets away from 2nd place on the grid, was able to take into that race leader. Shaq gets past Garlic, and so now head up into the 9 and 10 chicane, and that's nearly a big moment. And Daniel Riley's picked up 3 seconds, same with Kyle as well. 2 drivers already picking up 3-second time penalties, but for Shaq nearly into the back of Kyle, and that could have been disastrous from the get-go, but good avoidance skills from that Scuderia Ferrari driver as the prancing horse now tries to see himself into a rhythm, and unfortunately with that disconnect saw him drop a few places at the start, and is now in this mid-pack trying to battle his way through with Demon, who's already up to 8th place from 12th on the grid. A brilliant start from the V-Carb. Let's now head through the left-hander a little bit wide, and actually there was some damage at the start of this race, and it was for Demon, who unfortunately has had to come into pit lane. They're side by side just behind here between Jedi and Krypton, and Jedi makes his way through up into 9th place, and he will carry on his merry way to now try and follow and attack Shack Attack in front. Excuse me, Happy. And there's now dropped about half a second now between him and Stewart. It's now a second and a half nearly, and into the wall, and that's surely going to be some front wing damage. Carl picks up another 3-second time penalty, and it is front wing damage to Happy. Those intermediates just cannot handle these conditions, and unfortunately for him, he will potentially see the same fate as his teammate Demon and have to come into pit lane. So heading into the left-hander of 9 and 10 with Stewart. The top 2, that gap's around 1.2 seconds. Late in the race once more into turn 11 with Happy. Those intermediate tyres are certainly going to be struggling all the way through. Is now into that final corner. Stevens setting the fastest lap, really liking these extreme wet compounded tyres. As actually, now just on cue, maybe a couple laps delayed, we're going to have Joseph Black join us in the commentary box. Hello, Joseph. How are you on this Tuesday evening? That's if his mic's plugged in, everybody. Joseph, can you hear me?
Can indeed.
Way, there we go. Joseph, everybody, into the stream. Don't want you to be blasted and deafened by him, unfortunately. Yes, he's got a beautiful voice, but don't want your ears to be deafened. But we are into the race. I think you might need an invite here, Joseph. We're 3 laps in. It's a wet race here in Australia. Jedi is now going side by side with Shaq for 7th and 8th place, as they now head through the left-hander of 8, and Shaq able to come out victorious in that little squabble that they are having. And actually someone going slowly there, that's Kyle, who's pulled off to the side of the road, and unfortunately he's gone slow, and he's dropped down not only behind Krypton but Mr. Tadu as well. And that could be some dire consequences for the McLaren, as he now sees himself fall further and further back.
Yeah, that will be disappointing for Kyle, the first race of the season, and well, maybe that might be something to do with tech issues, not sure, and I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to speak to him afterwards. Now, I'll have the opportunity, hopefully, to get in and talk to you about maybe some of the drivers' names, the real names, and maybe that we can just get those ideas, because I know you all like the real names, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm just loading up the game now, and then will be able to get in. I'm also aware that my mic, I'm not sure why, sounds a little bit blown out. It does this recently. I'm not 100% sure why, but yeah, it's a problem that I have found recently, and now I load up the F1 game and hope to be able to get in. And yeah, it's looking like a pretty good race. I mean, the likes of Dan Riley were confident heading into it, and it looks like that's paying off for him at the moment in third place, while everybody else just a little bit further down. Of course, you've got Andrew Chenkovan, as you would expect, on that podium, of course, last time's champion, hoping to come back in it. And Dan Riley on that podium right now in a good position.
Yeah, he certainly is indeed in third, 1.5 seconds ahead of Stewart. I do have the drivers' names up now. I've finally been able to find them and access the folder that I needed to for some reason. It just didn't let me earlier, so I do have the driver names. But for, of course, Stevens in that Mercedes, that he's doing quite well with Stevens now, as he's now heading into lap 5 of 29, and he's already built up a 5.5 second lead here. Joseph absolutely flying out in front, and he just at the moment doesn't seem like he can be stopped in these opening few tours of the circuit.
He very much doesn't, and well, he set the fastest lap of the race at 34.2, and that just demonstrates his domination at the top. 5.5 seconds at the top of the field, and the Mercedes is doing incredibly well. Don't forget as well about the the Constructors even Championship, and well, Dan Riley and Stevens will be doing a very, very good job in that championship just to kick them off for said season. And yeah, it's a very exciting time for those two teammates as Mercedes get themselves in the fight for that championship, which of course has been held by Ferrari and Shackleton and Chenkovan for multiple seasons in a row. Hopefully somebody is going to be able to at least challenge, if not completely stop them. And Ferrari it's Mercedes even, look like they're in the best position to do so.
Yes, they certainly do with that 1-3 so far, and with both Stephen and Daniel Riley breaking away from the drivers behind. It is giving them a brilliant opportunity to try and battle that Ferrari outfit for the Constructors' Championship as another fastest lap goes in. He's about 2 seconds a lap quicker than the Ferrari behind is Stevens now. And we have drivers into pit lane already, Daniel Riley and Stewart as well. So let's see what they go on to. Onto a set of the intermediates. So if you're the V-Cub there of Happy, that's actually really gonna help overall with your pace in this race now, as you're pretty much an effective pit stop ahead of the rest. As we now head into the right-hander of turn 3, Daniel Riley on those on to through turn 5, and now into the 7 and 8 right, and then left and then right-hander. As you power your way through there, as this track slowly starts to get dry as the rain calms down.
Yeah, it certainly does, and well, it might be the opportunity for drivers to switch over to the intermediate tyres. Dan Riley's done it, Stuart Towers has done it, and I think we might be seeing more drivers do it over the next few laps as they'll keep an eye on the pace. And Dan Riley is closing in on Connor Stewart Woodard in the other McLaren as it stands. And Stuart Towers by himself is closing in on his teammate and will hope to be able to make that position up very soon. But yeah, it's a good opportunity for them to take. And well, fastest lap once again for Stevens. That's a very, very good position for the Mercedes to find himself in. Good positions for a number of drivers on the field, but he's going to have to be wary of the likes of Daniel Riley closing in because of the pace advantage that Riley is very clearly demonstrating.
Yeah, Riley is going to be oh so fast over the course of these next few laps. I think he has timed that switch, to the intermediates quite nicely. but for Stephen Snell up in front, he's not really being closed in on by the lead of the intermediate runners being happy in that V-carb. As you can see, actually, speaking of happy, he picked up a 3-second time penalty to boot, and unfortunately that is not going to help him in the slightest. And now heading through the right-hander returnator Daniel Riley, he's getting closer and closer to the Kick Sauber in front. We'll see what he is going to be able to do, and if he's going to be able to make his way back into the top 5 within the matter of laps.
Yes, I'm sure he's going to be able to with the pace he's shown so far, and Stuart Towers is closing in as well, as the track is certainly getting faster, and Stephen Snell setting fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap and doing well on those wet compound tyres. But when is he going to make that switch? Well, I'm not sure quite yet, but it's certainly sure that Dan Riley and Stuart Towers are very quick on those intermediate tyres, and well, they are going to pose a threat to Stephen Snell at the top, as Snell himself is opening up that gap on Andrea Chenkovan. I think it's fair to say as well that Chenkovan hasn't been challenged as hard as this probably since Aaron McGurk has been in the league, although to be fair. And well, there's a couple of there was a couple of races last season where George Chapman looked like he was challenging. Of course, Chapman not quite challenged, or not in the league anymore. He did make it in, but Connor Stewart Woodard looks like he's gone off at turn 1, and that's going to be our first virtual safety car of the race. It's going to be a real safety car it's converted to. That's a great opportunity for those drivers who haven't come into the pits. Stephen Snell has been thrown a lifeline.
He certainly has, and that could certainly see him now come into pit lane. We say he's been thrown a lifeline, though, here, Joseph. When that safety car was called, he was 15 seconds clear of the Ferrari of Sonic behind. That just shows how quick he has been all evening long, and it's just been absolutely insane to see this level of pace from the Mercedes. He now dives into pit lane. This will be for a set of the intermediates, and he's now gonna be onto a set of the intermediates. They're in the Ferrari behind, and will the likes of Happy come into pit lane as well, along with Ethan Shackleton in 4th place. Surely everybody in those extreme wets going to be coming in for the intermediates.
You'd think so, because this is the crossover point, and it's a perfect opportunity for them to do so because of that safety car that's come out, and Stephen Snell is going to catch up to it. Andrea Chenkovan has put on a new set of the wet tyres, so the Ferrari, that could be a huge mess up, as he maybe hasn't switched the tyres, and he's also potentially held up his own teammate Ethan Shackleton in the meantime, although Shackleton doesn't seem too badly affected. They're going to come out of the pits, and where is Dan Riley going to stack up in comparison to them as he heads down the main straight? He's going to be ahead of at least Ethan Shackleton. Is he going to be able to get ahead of the Aston Martin as well? Not quite, and so he will be in 5th place, but the Aston Martin has not come in, has not changed his tyres, and it feels like Dan Riley is still in a net P3.
Yeah, Daniel Riley will still potentially be in that net P3, or potentially a net P2, because he was showing a lot quicker pace than the V-carb in 3rd. So he could certainly see himself shoot up the order, and we'll see what he can do here in this race. So for Daniel Riley and Stephen Snell for Mercedes, of course, they're not only looking for their own personal glory, but the team's championship as well. And if they can get that one through, I actually think a 1-2 could be possible here for them both. They're both in the intermediates, seeming like the quicker tyre for now. And for the Ferrari behind of Sienkiewicz, he really has potentially shot himself in the foot. So the 1-2 for Mercedes is certainly going to be an option in this opening round of the season.
Sienkiewicz, get that one clipped, Kyle. It would be Andrea Chenkovan in that second place. But there's you've done worse. Mr. Taddo has left the session, unfortunately, for the Williams. Anyone remember Pau Villagras? I'm sure nobody here does, but we certainly do. And well, it's the Williams is left the session. Hopefully, he's going to be able to make it back in quickly. And yeah, that's unfortunate for him. I believe that will be Harry Jennings in that Williams. And doing well at the moment. So the 4 new drivers that we have this season, 21 cloves of garlic, which I believe through elimination is going to be Paul Garung, I believe. Yes. I'm going to try and confirm that. I think it is, but yes, it definitely is. I've got that right. So it's Stephen Snell in first place, and of course, just as we've discovered, it's Paul Garung in that 4th. Why Happy was Benjamin D, wasn't it, in that 3rd place, and then it was Harry Jennings down in that 9th place. So the 3 brand new drivers to the league doing well so far. Garung, Snell and Benjamin D in 1st, 3rd and 4th at the moment, and Andrei Chenkovan might have not just one challenger like he had with George Chapman, but he might have multiple.
He certainly might, of course. With the fact we had rain in the opening round of the season, it did throw people's setups up in the air, and that could have maybe caused a little bit of a disparity in that qualifying session. And that's why we saw some drivers 3 seconds off the pace and some right on the pace, because of course setups play a big part around this circuit, and especially when you have high downforce on the car, you're going to be hemorrhage time at every given opportunity whenever there is a straight ahead. But we should be getting underway from this safety car very shortly, and we're now going to see if Stephen Snell can really pull that gap out once again. And I mean, he had 15 seconds just as he came into the pit lane there. I think if we get to the end of this race and he's not been able to pull at least 10 seconds, I think personally, as a driver myself, I would have been extremely disappointed if I wasn't able to repeat that feat in similar conditions.
Yes, it's going to be interesting to see whether Stephen Snell is going to be able to pull this one off, as we're going to get at least another lap under the safety car, and we are now over a third of the way through the inaugural Grand Prix of the Almost Pro Championship season. Connor Stewart-Woodard has also disconnected from the session, interestingly enough, which is disappointing to see. Hopefully he and Jennings will be able to make their way in soon and just make their way into the race once again. And we've got at least one more lap, so at least about 2 minutes for them to do so, and then they will be right back on it and right ready to get racing. And we'll get some good action for the final 2/3 of this season opening Australian Grand Prix. We've had a decent start so far. A wet race that looks like it might be turning to dry soon. Most have swapped to the intermediate tyres. Some have stayed out, and some have even switched over to brand new tyres. I'm looking at you, Andrei Chenkovan, but it's going to be a very, very, very good race. Shackleton and Moore have both switched over to new sets of wets as well. Brian Moore, of course, he's becoming quickly a staple in this league, and Ethan Shackleton has always been a staple. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do. And of course, Carl Stewart-Woodard here since day dot, the league's owner, as the safety car is going to come in this lap, and Stephen Snell is going to lead us away. Andrei Chenkovan's going to be on the wet compound tyres, and right behind him, sniffing and ready to go racing and ready to attack, is going to be the V-Carb. And is Benjamin D going to be able to challenge?
Let's wait and see as the drivers now trundle their way down into turn 11 on lap 11. We'll get underway though once we cross that line on lap 12. And when does Stephen Snell decide to go? That is going to be the big question from Chenkovan behind. The Ferrari, of course, will be looking to just try and stop the escape from the Mercedes, which I say that Stephen Snell has now officially gone. I think, yes, he has. He's already put the foot to the floor, and he's going to start to try and break away from the Scuderia Ferrari behind as we exit out of that final corner. Who has got the tyre decision right? Are we in for the extreme wet till the end of the race with Chenkovan, or are those intermediates going to be the better tyres? We head through turns 1 and 2. It is seeming like the intermediate tyre, certainly the one you want to be on, as that Ferrari was all out of shape through the first 2 corners and coming under pressure from Benjamin behind.
Yes, under pressure, very much so. But Benjamin with the wide exit and not quite able to close in. So just a couple of very big mistakes from them as it stands, and that's allowed the opportunity for Stephen Snell to break his way out through the field. And well, these three have also broken free of the cars behind, particularly the Aston Martin that is now 1.7 behind on the road, which is not great for them. It says yellow flag, it's not yellow flag, so ignore that one. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting final few laps of this race. And I say final few, we've got 17 left. I'm not willing the end of this race quite yet, but it looks like it's going to be an absolute corker. Stephen Snell broken free of Chenkovan broken free of Benjamin D, and Daniel Riley making his way up to 4th place, maybe demonstrating that those intermediate tyres are the ones to be on. He gets through on the Aston Martin, and he moves his way up into 4th place. Or maybe it's the case that the Aston Martin's tyres have gone off, as around the outside Stuart Towers goes through. Not to doubt Stuart Towers' ability at all, but they're still going to fight it away as they head out of the final corner, and Stuart Towers gets that position done. Aston Martin losing 2 in 2, and Stephen Snell goes 2 seconds quicker.
That's a brilliant lap time there from Stephen Snell. Is there once again. Grong just being unfortunately shuffled down the order. The Aston Martin driver got some front wing damage and is on those old extreme wet compounded tyres. Is now going to be under pressure from the kick Sauber behind as we go late on the brakes with him. And a bit of contact made between the pair. A bit more contact as actually Grong has shown the door and shown the wall nearly as he goes off into the gravel. And he's going to be dropping to the back of this queue. You would think with that damage, with those old tyres, they will be feeling so horrible right now. The amount of wear that he would have on those extreme wets compared to everybody's fresh ones. He's just going to be all over the road. And once again, now pick up another 3-second time penalty as now the Williams and the V-Carb go 3 wide down the back straight. Who's going to cut back out and give the room? It is going to be the Williams driver who has to go really wide there. And for Jenkins, is he going to be able to pull this one off to the inside? He goes through 9 and 10. Beautiful move there from the Williams. And now Kyle is going to try and make his way through. And look at that. In the space of 1 lap, Grong has gone from 5th place all the way down to 11th.
It's fair to say the gamble didn't work. Well, not necessarily even a gamble, but just the inability to switch, or the decision to not switch more specifically, has dropped him down the field and expect him in on this occasion, as the grip for the new tyres is significantly better than the old ones, and clearly he didn't get that tyre warm up done under the safety car, so he literally had no benefit to his game as they went back to green flag racing. And lap 14 of 29, Stephen Snell up on Andrei Chenkovan by 4.5 seconds. That is a huge gap to be holding over him. And Benjamin D will look for the opportunity in 3rd place. And he's going to try and move up to 2nd. I think then once he can get past Chenkovan in 2nd, he can chase down that 1st place spot that has looked so good for him so far, and it might even be a 1-2 for brand new drives in this league. Don't forget as well, the rain is easing off. We might get dry conditions soon, and so the end of the race could be thrilling as Benjamin D chasing Andrei Chenkovan could have looked on the outside there. He lined up as if he was going to, but he was just a little bit too far back, and he might have to go for it once again down the straight.
Yep, now heading in late on the brakes. And unfortunately for Benjamin, not able to get close enough to Chenkovan just yet. So now head through the turn 12 right-hander. Late on the brakes into 13. Those intermediates are certainly seeming like the better tyre at the moment. And unfortunately for poleman Chenkovan, he is really starting to fall further and further back from Stephen Snell. Potentially see himself off the podium in a few laps' time once Daniel O'Reilly is going to be on his tail. And actually, in all of this, Benjamin's able to keep up on those intermediates with some front wing damage. And that really just shows how much of a pace loss that Chenkovan has on those extreme wet weather tyres. Someone with damage, unfortunately, sees themselves keeping up with you, and you know you've got the wrong tyre. But I think what Chenkovan is going to be doing here, Joseph, is just staying out in those wets, trying to take them all the way to the end, or at least to a point where everybody else has to come into pit lane. But I think everybody who's now on the intermediates, on those 6 lap old ones at the very least, won't have to come into the pits again.
Yeah, they definitely don't. And, well, they might have poor tyres towards the end of the race as Benjamin D around the outside gets that move done on Chenkovan and moves up to second place. But, yeah, I think it's a potential that those Inter runners go to the end of the race. And those wet runners will certainly have to switch Andrea Chenkovan, demonstrating how much worse the grip is for those wets as opposed to the intermediate tyres. He got overtaken, and Brian Moore picking up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings as he is in that final points position as it stands ahead of the newly pitted Garung, who came in, is now 12.9 seconds behind. And yeah, it's going to be a pit stop actually for Andrea Chenkovan. He dives in on 15 of 29, and these are going to be the tyres that he takes to the end of the race, as there is a penalty that might come back to bite Stevens. Or Steven Snell even, towards the end of this race. But Chenkovan in intermediate tyres strapped on, and our champion is going to fight his way back up to the podium.
Yeah, now we're going to see a very angry man in a Ferrari, knowing he got that tyre strategy wrong. So now try and climb his way back up throughout that field, but it'll be a very tough ask in 13 laps to get back up to the back of Benjamin D. And for Chenkovan, he's going to be now trying to put Carl under all sorts of pressure, who was also on that extreme wet weather compound of tyre, and is now going to be trying to make his way up through the order once more. So for the Ferrari, some tough times ahead here, Joseph, and for the reigning champion, he's got a point to prove. He wants to keep that championship title, and this is not the way he would have wanted to start this season.
No, it's certainly not. And well, knowing Andrea Chenkovan, once he has a bad race, he'll come back stronger. Just take a look at Hungary last season, crashing with just a few laps to go, which handed Ethan Shackleton the victory. And Andrea Chenkovan, he fought back and absolutely dominated the final portion of the season. He's going to get past Carl Stewart Woodard with ease as they head out of the corner. Just more grip on the exit with those brand new Inters on, while Kyle has older wet compound tyres on, 30.7 for Steven Snell as he sets the fastest lap of this race. And Chenkovan, look at that, has already eked out a second worth of gap on the McLaren in 9th place, and looks to set his sights on Harry Jenkins in 7th place in that Williams. And well, he's 2.4 behind. Interesting to see where he will be at the end of this first sector. Wouldn't be surprised with the pace that he's showing if it ends up being less than a second. That is just the demonstration that we're getting from Andrea Chenkovan here, and that is exactly why he is a champion. The pace that outright he's able to show is just incredible, week in, week out. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does fight his way back into contention for where Daniel Riley is, for where Stuart Tower is, or Stuart Towers even, as originally I actually got sent that document that was incorrect, and that could be a podium on for Chenkovan.
It certainly can be indeed. Let's quickly run you through, everybody at home, the penalty situation. So, penalties for these drivers. 3 seconds for Stephen, Benjamin and Daniel. 12 seconds for Demon. Then we have Chenkovan on 6, Kyle on 9. And then the Kick Sauber and the Aston Martin of Grong on 3 seconds respectively. And look at that. There goes Jenkins. A very wide line and into the wall, actually, trying to let through Chenkovan. And he sees himself fall behind the Ferrari as well. But now with 11-second gap to close up to the V-Carb in front in 6th place. It's going to be a very difficult task. But still, I reckon he will catch up. I would say around about potentially lap 26, I think, is when he's going to be able to catch up to the back of the train behind Daniel Riley. And in that battle for the podium could well and truly be on.
It could be. The podium battle is going to be brewing towards the end of this race. And, well, surely it can't be on, can it? Well, it can, and I'm sure it will be, as Chenkovan continues that chase up. He's got a 10.7 second gap to this battle, which could be a furious fight very soon, as Daniel Riley on those Inters is surely going to be slower than Lucas Aracini on 3 lap younger intermediate tyres. One characteristic of this game is that those 3 laps could have a hell of a lot of difference. And yeah, Daniel Riley at the moment defending with those 12-lap-old Inters. Somehow Shackleton keeping pace with those wets. He's doing well so far. And well, Lucas Erricini in behind is going to look to pressure. He's made his way back to the league, and he's now chasing 2 icons as Stuart Towers, 2-time champion. One of 2, the other one being Chenkovan, and Ethan Shackleton, who the nearly man on many occasions, but a mainstay of the league. And I believe second longest serving after Kyle. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. But I think it's something like that. Ethan Shackleton, absolute legend. And actually, out of the way goes Daniel Riley. Out of the way goes Shackleton. Shackleton's going to switch to the Inters. Dan is going to get a new set of Inters on. And that is going to change things for the final 11 laps.
It certainly is. I'm surprised that Daniel Riley has come in, to be fair. The intermediates don't wear much over the course of a race, and only 12 laps on that tyre. I would have expected him to go for much, much longer, but that's now allowed Chenkovan a lot more of an easier run at things for this podium. Now he's only got Seracini, and then also Stuart Towers in front of him. So this now really does help that man currently in 5th place, the reigning champion of Chenkovan. But the question is, will he be able to catch up enough to be able to get those moves done, as there's another penalty coming the way of Seracini, as we now see the Ferrari of Chenkovan heading through turn 8 now. He's brought that gap down by about 2 seconds over the past 2 laps. So he is really starting to put his foot down and trying to fly his way further up the order, as Stephen Snell is 12.2 seconds clear.
Yeah, he's a huge gap up the field. And yeah, second place now being held by Benjamin D as fastest lap again for Stephen Snell. Somehow he's managing to eke that out with the Inters. Is there a possibility that he goes to the end of this race?
I think there certainly is. I don't see how those Inters don't go to the end, to be fair. I see them making it all the way to the end of this race and then just being around about, I would say, 40% wear by the time they come in to pit lane. But certainly for Snell, for Benjamin as well, Stuart Towers, I really do expect these drivers to all come in, all to stay out, sorry, as Chenkovan actually picks up another 3-second time penalty. That takes his total up to 9, really hurting his cause. So we're on lap 20 of 29 now with 10 laps to go. And for Chenkovan, a lot of pressure will now need to be applied to the cars in front. But yeah, surely Snell and also Benjamin will stay out in this one. But for Snell, even if everybody behind him comes into the pit lane, he's still got that pit window over Chenkovan behind him, and he can easily just come in and come straight back out in front of him.
Yeah, he's got that advantage, has Stephen Snell. And, well, yeah, he's doing very well as it stands. Shackleton making his way past Jenkins and up into that 7th place. He's got an opportunity here, as has Dan Riley, of closing in on Chenkovan. As fast lap again for Stephen Snell, but they've got the opportunity to close in. And if, potentially, Stephen Snell gets this strategy wrong, that could open the door to a few more drivers in this race.
Certainly. It certainly should open the door for others throughout this one. And now for Stephen Snell out in the front of this field. That gap just ever building over the course of this last lap. He's gained about 2 seconds over Benjamin D just behind him. And it's now going to be looking to just try and make that a pit stop window over the man in 2nd place. As you can just see, he's absolutely flying at the front of the field. Just under a 10th slower than his all-time best in this race. And as he'll be bringing this one now through into the right-hand of return 11. See what he can do as Kyle has come back, into pit lane for a fresh set of boots. And actually, Kyle and also Gruger are nearly a lap down in this race as well. So if Stephen Snell can keep up this pace, we could talk about some drivers being lapped at this moment in time. And for Stuart Towers. He's still holding Serensteni behind for that 4th place, with Chenkovan gaining at a rate of knots. That gap now 6 seconds between 3rd and 4th, and Chenkovan in 5th. As you can see, the V-Carb all over the back of the Williams as Daniel Riley makes his way past Harry Jenkins. And he is up into 7th place and will now be battling with Ethan Shackleton. We'll see what he can do now to try and defend from the hard-charging Mercedes. Surprised, of course, earlier on. I said I was surprised that Riley came into pit lane from those intermediates. Would have easily thought they would have made it to the end, but decided to go for some fresher ones. Was able to then try and see himself further up the hill as we look to the outside line with the Mercedes. Maybe force the Ferrari to go in deep, but nice defence there from Ethan Shackleton as he now heads up into turn 3. Not long left in this race at all here in Australia. We're on lap 22 of 29. And these drivers certainly are starting to maybe just throw caution to the wind, push that little bit harder, just then be on the limit a little bit more, and that's where you can start to see mistakes and penalties and more overtakes being made in this race. And that's the fine line that you are dancing on, especially in these closing laps when you want to make these positions up, when you know there's very limited time left, is that you could make those mistakes and see yourself out of the race from a very good position indeed.
Yeah, it's just one mistake can cost you in a race, and Andrea Chenkovan discovered that in Hungary last year, as I mentioned earlier. And, well, we could be seeing, somebody else make that mistake. Kyle Stewart would have made a mistake earlier on, and that was what cost him the race. And I'm sure we're going to get the opportunity later to speak to him and find out exactly what happened. But he's not in a bad position where he's just in that 10th place, still within the points. And I'm not sure how many penalties Brian Moore has, but he might be able to fight his way up to 11th place. We'll have to see as if we could get those penalties up. That would be great. And then we'll see who is on what amount of penalties. I think Stephen Snell has just the 3 at the top of the standings. Indeed, he does. Lucas Herosini has 18 seconds worth of penalties, so I'm not sure what's happened to the V-Carb. Didn't think it was that bad, but yeah, Lucas Herosini, 18 seconds worth of must be only track limit penalties. That's something quite special, and that drops him behind Andrew Chenkovan at the very least. Yeah,
unfortunately for Serencini, he's picked up those penalties, and he'll actually fall behind Ethan Shackleton as well. With those penalties, because that gap around about 15 seconds, so he needs to pick up that pace a little bit if he wants to hold on to a 5th place finish in this one as well. But of course had that qualifying ban from not being able to serve it last season, and it's done quite well to make his way up the order, as that's Jenkins now pick up a 3-second time penalty. Only 2 drivers remain without a penalty, and that is Stuart Towers and also Ethan Shackleton. So let's see if they can make it to the end without picking up an extra penalty. But for Serencini, even though he's picked up so many penalties here, Joseph, still a very nice drive from 12th to make his way up to 4th place on the road. But unfortunately, I think Chenkovan will just be able to jump in before the end.
I think so, and Chenkovan, I think picking up the pieces in this race, it's not been an ideal one for him, and he's down in 5th place at the moment, so he does still have an opportunity to come back in, especially considering he has the opportunity to climb up and has the opportunity to still take that podium, especially with all those penalties Lucas Serencini has. Knowing Serencini, he's not going to care about those penalties. He's going to fight for it anyway, and yeah, right behind Stuart Towers, this is his chance to strike on the Williams as they head through the first sector. He gets a better line. He gets a better exit. Is he going to pull alongside Stewart? And are we going to be able to see a move into the chicane? That would be something very, very special. And he does pull alongside momentarily, but Stewart just gets the exit and holds on to it for now. But Serencini certainly threatening.
He certainly is. Of course, if I was Stewart, I'd just let him through. Not going to gain 18 seconds on me in the next few laps. As actually, Stephen Snell is into pit lane. So the race leader comes into the pits. He's got a big gap over Benjamin D behind. Will he actually come out in front of Benjamin? That is going to be the question, as the V-Carb now makes its way down the main straight. And I think this is all just a bid for fastest lap really here, Joseph, because he's going to come out in front of the V-Carb as they now head down into turn 1. Or is he? Is they going to be side by side through the first corner? And Stephen Snell will just be able to hold on. But of course, this is now for position as there goes Benjamin D to the outside line. Is he going to be able to pull this one off heading into turn 3? No, just doesn't have the drive up, down into turn 3. And for Stephen Snell, he's pulled that one off to perfection. If he boxed the lap early, he would have been overtaken. And he just shows how much pace he really does have. And for Benjamin D as well, doing really well with that wing damage he got from the very beginning of this race to carry on with this pace and nearly get the undercut done.
Yes, the undercut appears to have worked, but, well, not quite yet. And, well, Stephen Snell looks like he might have the opportunity to hold on to this win. And with those brand new Inters up to speed straight away, he is certainly going to get the opportunity to. But, of course, Benjamin is going to try and push him all the way to the line and is 9/10 behind and is going to be pushing absolutely everything to try and catch up with the Mercedes. Stuart Tower could be on for a very, very good third place as it stands, but Lucas Aracini threatening Andrea Chenkovan now almost within a second of Lucas Aracini, and you'd think he'd make light work of the Italian as Aracini now on the back, and Brian Moore actually making his way back past Harry Jennings, and that's a fight down the bottom of the order, and well, for those final few points positions, and I believe I called him Jenkins earlier on. That is a mistake. It is Jennings. And yeah, he is fighting away with Brian Moore. But looking at the battle for third place, it's going to be Stuart Towers ahead of Lucas Aracini, ahead of Andrea Chenkovan, who's made his way into the DRS. They head down the main straight, and it's almost a personal best for lap for Stuart Towers, as he knows that he has to get a move on now to break free from the threats of Lucas Aracini.
Yes, he certainly will. And Chenkovan is now, of course, going to be putting these drivers under some pressure with now 4 laps, to go in this race. And for Stuart Towers, he's trying to hold on to that third place. Of course, he can allow Chenkovan to go less than 9 seconds in front of him. So at the moment, Stuart Towers, I think surely on this a big mistake happens or he starts to pick up some penalties, has this third place in the bag, and for your reigning champion Chenkovan won't be even featured on the rostrum in this opening round of the season. Not the way he would have wanted to start. He's targeted defence, but here he comes down, Serancini. Here comes the Ferrari on the V-Carb, and look at that, nicely done. Just gallops his way through before he even reached the braking zone of turns 9 and 10. And Serancini trying to fight back, goes a little bit wide through there. Fortunately not able to get close enough for the move. But Chenkovan already making his first move as he's caught up to this train. And I think Stuart Towers will be overtaken within a matter of moments.
Yes, he could get through soon, and Andrea Chenkovan is going to want to get through soon. He's made one move up, and he's going to be able to make it past Stuart Towers as Stephen Snell, fastest lap of the race once again. He has had an incredible start to his APC career, and yeah, second place is held by Benjamin or Benjamin D even at the moment, and it looks like it may well be staying that way. But Andrea Chenkovan, with just the 3 laps to go, is in for a podium shout. And he wants to get past Stuart Towers, and he needs to build up that gap. Do not forget, he needs to build up that gap. And yeah, this is going to be a very interesting end to this race, as this fight for P3 is very much on. Don't forget as well that Lucas Aracini could get in the way of Stuart Towers' podium here today if he decides to fight with him, because he's not going to be able to make up those 18 seconds of penalties. And yeah, it's going to be very, very close as to whether Andrea Chenkovan is going to be able to break free. Hello, Ed Hunter in the chat. Welcome, and thank you for coming in and watching the first round of this APC season. Of course, it's not Tom Dillon on commentary. It's not you either. We need you back at some point, Ed. And well, I will be seeing you on CoComs, I'm hoping, at some point in September. But yeah, it's going to be a move here. Chenkovan pulls alongside and pulls ahead of Stuart Towers. Third place is his, and well, how many penalties does he have in order to break free? As that is another 3-second time penalty. He runs incredibly wide, and Stuart Towers makes his way back through, and I think that is going to be that. Andrea Chenkovan, 6 seconds worth of penalties now, and Stuart Towers runs off of, or gets through as Chenkovan runs off of the circuit, and yeah, it's going to be a huge, huge disadvantage for Chenkovan now onto the penultimate lap.
Yes, it certainly will, as we're on to that penultimate tour of the circuit. And for Chenkovan, it was a 9-second penalty he has. It's now going to be a 12, and that's actually going to allow Ethan Shackleton to now jump up the order as well. So Shackleton, who was about 10 seconds behind Sinisteri just a few minutes ago, is now within 2 seconds. That shows the difference between younger tyres and the older ones in the course of this race, between those intermediates and how fast you can go on them, how much you can push on them. And for the Ferrari, will see himself in 4th place, and if he's actually able to catch up a little bit more over the course of the next few laps, could see himself potentially in podium contention if he can catch up to Stuart Towers. It could actually be now a move between Chenkovan and Towers as they now head into 9 and 10. Is the Ferrari going to go for the move here? No, he's just going to sit behind for now. He's surely going to be looking for that move into turn 11, but this time needs to make sure he doesn't go deep into the corner, as here we are then heading through into turn 11. It'll be late on the brakes for the Scuderia Ferrari as he goes a little bit deep once more and does run a little bit wide. Could that give Towers the momentum he needs to go to the inside once again into turn 12? Yes, it does. The Williams trying to hold firm, trying to hold on to this 3rd place on the road, but Chenkovan just sees his way through with Stephen Snell now starting the final tour of this circuit with now Ethan Shackleton in really good opportunity to take a podium here.
Yeah, great opportunity for Andrew Chenkovan and for Stuart Towers. We'll see how that one stacks up. But Stephen Snell, debut in the league, and he is absolutely dominated in this race. That is absolutely sensational. And, well, he has driven absolutely incredibly. 2nd place for Benjamin D as well. We have new contenders for Chenkovan for the APC title. Slide for Stuart Towers, which is going to lose everybody behind a little bit of time. Don't forget about Ethan Shackleton, who might be able to snatch at least a 5th place, if not a 4th. But Stuart Towers now 1 second down the road. If Luca Seracini puts him under any more pressure, then it could be Andrea Chenkovan's day, and the Ferrari will be counting his lucky stars. But I don't think Stuart Towers is going to feel that pressure as Shackleton makes his way past Luca Seracini and up into 5th place, 1.2 between Chenkovan and Stuart Towers. But Stephen Snell heads around the final couple of corners.
Yep, Stephen Snell to make a debut in a league. What an impact this has been. Has taken that lead from the start and has never looked back. A new challenger has approached here, Chenkovan. It's Stephen Snell who wins here in Australia. He weathers the storm, and that battle for 3rd place now rages on, and Shackleton's been forced wide by Stuart Towers, and he's been passed by Senasini, and unfortunately the V-Carb has stopped any chance of the Ferrari seeing himself onto the podium. It's Benjamin D finishing off in 2nd place, with Stuart Towers, who will come across the line 4th place on the road, but will finish in 3rd once penalties have been applied. Same with Shackleton now up into 4th. Then it's Chenkovan 5th. Then it is Senasini in 6th before Daniel Riley, who came into pit lane quite early compared to the rest of his competitors, could have easily made that to the end, and he actually was able to jump the V-Carb as well, so he finishes off in 6th. Then we have Moore, followed by Jenkins, Kyle, and then Grungen to round out your field. But what a drive that was, Joseph, from Stephen Snell. Just ever since that opening lap of the race, just didn't look back and was just in fine form all the way throughout. I actually think there's contract between Jenkins and Kyle, or Jenkins just going for a spin there.
Yes, it's, well, unfortunate there towards the end of the race, but a very good drive from Stephen Snell and taking a very well-deserved victory. And Shackleton only ended 5/10 in the end behind Stuart Towers, and Chenkovan dropped to 5th place. Luca Seracini dropped to 7th behind Dan Riley. I think the Mercedes will be disappointed with that race, Will Riley, because he was in great contention for a podium. I think the strategy just went a bit wrong for him, and so therefore he dropped off. But yeah, he will not be too disappointed as far as the team's championship goes, with 1st place for his teammate Stephen Snell. And hopefully we'll get the chance to speak to our new championship contender, question mark?
Yes, potentially a new championship contender in Stephen Snell. Gave Chenkovan that he's run for his money, of course, in qualifying, and then dominated in the race. Question is, are we going to be able to hear from him? As we now will run you through your provisional order of this one. As you see now, Stephen Snell takes the race victory already a dominant force in his debut race. Second place was Benjamin D. Then it was Stuart Towers in third, Ethan Shackleton fourth, Chenkovan in fifth. Daniel Riley in sixth. Yes, will be very disappointed in that one. Could have easily stayed out and potentially got that third place. Then it was Senasini in seventh, Moore eighth, Jenkins ninth, Kyle 10th, Grungen in 11th, and then unfortunately in 12th place was also that would have been Connor Stewart Woodard, who was our only retirement from this one. But as we now head over to the fun, at the very least, for us to now discuss and potentially hear some interviews from this one here, Joseph. It was a very interesting race indeed, and really does set this season up well.
It certainly does, and we're going to jump over to the broadcast booth because I think we are going to be able to speak to a couple of drivers.
Yep, here we are then in the broadcast booth, the commentary box, and it seems like we're going to hear from 4 drivers so far: Riley, Moore, Kyle, and also Jenkins. So I think we should maybe do this in reverse. Should we do it in reverse, or just shall we do it as they finish?
The way we do it here at APC, if you're new, and of course we've got a few new viewers here, is we have Kyle, who comes in at the end. We have Dan, who usually comes in around in the middle. But first, I think we should speak to Brian Moore, IOM Jedi, and see what he has to say about that race. I'm excited to speak to Jennings too. But yeah, it should be good to hear from Brian, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to speak to him first. Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Do you want to just talk us through that race? It looked like a pretty decent one from your perspective, and not too bad of a start of the season.
That was a lot better than I expected for the start of the season. When I noticed it was full wet, I was a bit worried about carnage in turn 1, but it wasn't as bad as I expected, so it was a nice race all around.
Yeah, it was.
It certainly looked like a.
Sorry,
we're both so eager to speak to you.
Yeah,
it certainly looked like a decent race all round. You had a couple of battles on the circuit, but it was a very difficult one, I think, in terms of the weather conditions just to get right. Do you feel like you got the strategy right? Do you feel like there was anything you could have done better? And looking back, of course, retrospect is a wonderful thing. How would you have changed it?
I would have changed rather than going wet on the safety car, go to the Inters, because after safety car, definitely, to me, it felt like Inters were the fastest tyre at that point.
Fair enough. Max, have you got any questions? I will actually pass over to you now. I'll stop hogging it.
Stop hogging it, Joseph. I know you're the main man here, but let the others have a little bit of time. Anyway, of course, it was a very chaotic race, that one. It must have been very difficult to really keep that one on the road. Just describe the conditions. Of course, with it being full wets at the start and then switching to the intermediates, it must have been a real mess to just get the right strategy.
It was definitely a mess to get the right strategy. I mean, the grip off the start just non-existent. I mean, a few people for the first few laps seen obviously going wide into corners, just not getting it right. And then at that crossover point, when it's time for Inters, could really feel the wet just not being the tyre anymore. I picked up 2 track limits. That's why I made the decision to make the change for the Inters. And then after that, it felt a lot nicer. The full wets, to me at least, are not a nice tyre this game to drive on.
Yeah, they're not really. They are a bit clunky, those full wets. But we head to Japan next time out for round 2 next week. First of all, you're going to be racing, and second of all, you feeling confident, or is it just see how it goes and take it from there?
Not at all confident around Japan. It's by far my worst track this season. It's going to be more of one to keep it on the track and keep out of the wall than anything else.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us today, Brian. We hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
Right, who should we speak to now? I mean, Harry Jennings. Sound like a plan?
That does sound like a plan.
For hopefully we'll get our chance to speak to the new old recruit. And well, Harry, can you hear us?
Oh, hello.
Hello, wonderful. We can hear you. Would you like to talk us through your perspective of that race? Of course, not the easiest welcome back to APC, but certainly an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, I did terrible in quali, just pretty standard, and then just try to survive. It worked somewhat well. I mean, I can't remember getting my second warning, but it doesn't really matter now because I spun last corner anyway twice,
Yeah,
and
it's
then that was about it really.
That's fair enough. It's difficult to get the circuit right, but yeah, well, I asked this question to Brian. I'll ask you as well. I'm sure I'm going to repeat it to Carl and Dan in a minute about the weather conditions. And was it something you practiced for particularly, or was it just something where you just hit and hoped?
I had not done any laps in the wet, if I'm honest. So it was just kind of, I don't think I've done a wet at all this game, to be honest. So it was a bit of a, from previous years. So I don't think I did terrible compared to what I thought would have happened.
Yeah, I guess the muscle memory does help. And well, strategy-wise, do you think you nailed it? Do you think there was anything you could have done better? Or obviously, looking at it retrospectively is so easy.
I think my one stop was all right, to be fair. I mean, I picked just as the safety car started, and then just kept the inters. I mean, the rears were a bit dead at the end of the race, as I won again. But otherwise, it weren't too bad.
That's fair enough. Max, have you got anything for Mr. Jennings?
Yeah, just overall, Jennings. It was just really a difficult race out there, and it must have been extremely difficult to survive. And just overall, we saw how Daniel Moore thought about the conditions. Just how did you find the start of the race on those extreme wets? Was it tricky to get right? Of course, not having any experience on the game, and did it just feel like driving on ice essentially?
A little bit. I mean, the rears were locking a bit, which I was concerned at, but it seemed not too bad. I was a bit overly cautious in turn one because I didn't want to lock them and just fly into someone. So I felt I could have been a bit more aggressive, but I didn't want to send someone flying, so I thought that's fine.
That's fair enough. And also, we head to Japan next week. First of all, are you racing? And then second of all, are you confident around there, or is it a track where you're particularly weak?
Both, no. I don't like the track, but I'm also busy. So it's out the ones I'm missing, I'm not terribly annoyed. I should be able to get the rest of them, just the one.
Fair enough.
I've got something on.
It's fallen perfectly for you then, compared to the season, to get your worst track out the way as the one you miss.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I never get the grip round there. I've not raced there for quite a while, so I don't know. I'm not really practicing now. I'm not going to be here.
No, that is.
But previous years, it's not been my strongest of tracks.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But congratulations on the race, and we should see you hopefully in 2 weeks' time then.
Yes.
All right. Thank you and goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Goodbye.
Who do we bring in now, Joseph?
Well, I've just seen the race victor come in, so I think we
Yeah.
might have to get a little bit ahead of ourselves. I think we might have to get to the opportunity to speak to him.
I think we do. I think seeing Stephen in there he is. He's joined the commentary box. Joseph.
Good evening. Hello, hello.
Hello, right. You can hear us, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful. Just, do you want to talk us through that race? I mean, it looked like a pretty, I don't want to say boring, because it was a race victory, and you always want to win a race, but talk us through that race from your perspective.
No, far from boring, to be honest. I know Cenk. I played with him in another league earlier, so I know how quick he is and how quick he can be.
So that's what you can see in the quali. But in the quali, I went for a wet setup. I don't know what he did, but maybe he went the other way for the race. But I saw that it was a wet race. Then in the race, I actually got damage in the first lap, I think, in turn 4. But people don't gonna like if I say that, so I done the whole race with damage. But I don't know. I was just flying. I had good pace. I had the grip everywhere I needed to. The first few laps were a bit hard because the wet tires couldn't get warm. But once I got on the inters, it was gone. The grip was there. I saw Cenk went for the wets with the 6 seconds he had at that moment, and after that, I went for the win.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It was. It looked like a very tricky race to see in terms of.
It was, yeah.
The inters and the wets. Would retrospectively, is there anything you do differently?
Not get damage. I would have done that differently. That was a bit stupid, to be honest. And I got the penalty, but yeah, in these conditions, like the 3 seconds I got for track limits, but it's so hard to keep the car on track on these conditions, and especially with the fast corners you have on this track, you lose so much time if you don't go on the limit. So that was a bit tricky. So once I got the 3-second penalty, and I saw I was a little bit quicker than the rest, I could manage my pace a little bit. But I also aimed a little bit for the safety car because I underfueled. I expected to gain a lot more fuel than I did. So that helped me also, because otherwise I would be in a different world. But yeah, less from that, maybe bring a bit more fuel. That was what I would have done more. But it worked out in the end.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Max, have you got anything for our race victor?
Yeah, just one from myself. Of course, congratulations on the race victory. But we head over to Japan next week. Are you feeling like you can go back to back in race victories?
Yes, of course. You have to be. If you don't have the confidence, you don't need to go league racing, I think. So I'm gonna try my best to get a good quali, because that's really important in this game. If you don't have a good quali, you're not gonna be in the front at the end of the race, probably because of the dirty air. It's really tricky to overtake, especially in the wet. Haven't seen the race yet back, but I don't know if there were a lot of overtakes like on track, but I'm curious to see that. But apart from that, yeah, I'm pretty confident. I like Japan a lot. Done it in previous games also. I got good results there, so let's see what we can do there.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations, and celebrate this victory and enjoy the rest of your evening, Stephen.
Well do. Thanks, lads.
Thank you. Right then, Joseph. I think there's 2 more waiting for us. One of them being Carl, one of them being Daniel. So I think it's kind of obvious who we have to go for now.
Of course, it's going to have to be Mr. Riley Goodit. Hello, Daniel. Long time no see. How are you?
Yeah, really good actually.
Good. Talk us through that race then. It looked like potentially an opportunity for a podium, but unfortunately, and didn't end up being. But yeah, just talk us through it.
Yeah, no. First, we get to even before the race and qualifying, not even touched a game, even let alone my computer in like 3 months. So obviously going into this race, I knew I wasn't going to be as good as I thought. But actually, I think the pace I had in quali just showed I'm literally just the exact same. Like I've literally not touched my computer ever since Abu Dhabi, where I came second in that race, where I honestly should have got first. But no, I'm actually pretty proud that even though I would have said it was a disappointing result, seeing as how many things happened in that race, like obviously the safety car did kind of mess me up. We had penalties that so were not deserved, in my opinion. A lot of things happened in that race. Maybe on another day, maybe if it was like last race of the season where I was like competing for a championship or something, maybe I would go off myself. But no, I think today is a learning point, if you want to say, and we just look forward to the next race. Really, bit unlucky, but that's what happens in a championship, really.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the championship, where are you targeting this season? Because obviously we've got some new drivers coming in. You were in the fight for that runners-up spot last time, and well, early signs are that you might be in with a chance of somewhere in the top 5. But yeah, what's the target?
Well, the target is I would say maybe P3, because I know Steven's really fast. He obviously won the race today. Obviously, Chenkovan. I feel like I'm catching up to Chenkovan in my opinion, but I think he's still faster. But Ethan Shackleton, I think I wasn't really challenging him. I was challenging him in some races, but I wasn't really. He was faster than me, but I feel like maybe I've gotten closer to his level really. I think it'll be. I think my race all season will be with Ethan Shackleton. So hopefully we can get that P3 in the Drivers' Championship, maybe even more. Who knows? Constructors' Champ. I think we can win it. I think me and Steven, we're a good duo in my opinion. Obviously he won the race. Maybe I should have gotten more. Probably should have, in my opinion. Maybe the best outcome I could have gotten was P2, a podium. But obviously that didn't happen. So maybe I need to step up my game for these next few races. But I think we'll have to see. I'm not sure if we're leading the constructors champ. I know P6 is 8 points. Not sure if he got fastest lap, but 25 plus 8 is 33. So a lot of good points so far. I'm not sure if that's P1 and constructors champ, but I'm definitely looking for that constructors champ and P3 in the drivers champ.
That's fair enough. That's a good answer then. And well, hopefully you're at least going to be able to put up a good fight for it. Max, have you got anything for Dan?
Yes, one from me. Daniel, of course, you came into the pit lane around about, I think it was lap 16, lap 17 from your first set of intermediates. Were you surprised nobody else came into pit lane along with you, or was that just strategic and just try to fight your way back up through the field?
That was strategic, trying to fight my way back up the field. My tyres were honestly cooked, in my opinion. It was a mix of strategy and desperation because I knew the guys behind me were catching up to me. They were all going to pass me anyway. I had a penalty. I didn't know if other drivers were going to get a penalty. Maybe I should have just stayed out. I don't know how cooked my tyres would have been, but they were cooked when I pitted. But I honestly don't know if I would have done anything different. I think probably the safest thing was pitting, in my opinion. Probably risking it and staying out probably was a bit more risky. But I honestly don't know. It was really just a wet race. Like wet races, in my opinion, I'm really, really bad at, in my opinion. So hopefully next race, what's it in Japan, I think. Hopefully it's not a wet race again, because then I will crash out. But if it is a dry race, then I'll definitely look forward to it.
Yeah, well, it was a solid drive from yourself, and yeah, we'll see what happens next time out in Japan. So yeah, thank you for joining me and Joseph this evening in the comms box, and we shall hopefully see you get a bit of a better result next week.
That's all right. Cheers, thank you.
All right then, Joseph. That leaves us with one more. Shall we bring Kyle into the comms box?
Of course we will. The big man, Kyle Stewart Woodard. And we'll speak to him about the way that his race went. Unfortunate, I think, for the majority of it. But able to pick home not the end of the world in terms of performance. I think it's fair to say, and I believe ended up actually picking up a singular point. So not too terrible of a weekend, but Carl, talk us through it from your perspective. I'll stop yapping about it.
Oh, you do have a way to find the positives and the negatives. I like that. But no, that was a terrible race, wasn't it? That was. I mean, it came down really to set up. I knew it was going to rain. I was hoping it wasn't going to rain for the whole race, so I kept the dry setup on because I felt really comfortable in the dry. I mean, I did have a couple of invalidated laps in quali, which is unfortunate. I think I had the pace for about P5, but yeah, unfortunately that setup just I had no grip in the rain. First lap got a bit of damage. It was my own fault. And then I never really recovered from there. I tried something different, put some inters on, and back to wets on the safety car, back to inters. I mean, I don't know how Harry was able to make his tyres last that long. Like I don't think I would have lasted. I'm looking in the chat now. I can see Paul, for example, was 80%. I couldn't have stayed on those tyres. I wouldn't have made it to the end. So how he held on for that position ahead of me, I think he deserved that position. Yeah, he spun on the last corner, but just kept it because of my penalty. Which, by the way, that one of those penalties came from a glitch, which is a bit annoying because I would have finished ahead of Harry, but I'm not going to bother trying to get it removed. I don't really have good proof, but apparently it's a glitch in the game where you can get a second penalty instantly, not after 3 warnings. So it's annoying. But you know what? Look, it came down to my setup. I didn't have the pace in the wet. I feel like I was pretty comfortable towards the end there. I was kind of hunting down Harry, but yeah, as I say, he deserved that position ahead of me. Got that one place in the end. That pit stop was perfectly timed, so I didn't have to try and get past Paul again. But yeah, you know what? It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It may not have been the most successful first race, but it's good to be back.
Very much good to be back. And well, I mean, just looking at the league as a whole, we'll get a little bit more analytical with you because, of course, you're the one that brought all these drivers in. How are you looking forward to the season in general? Is it looking like is it looking like we've got a good season inbound? Is Steven going to dominate Chenkovan's style? What's the feeling?
I mean, 13 drivers. Oh no, actually, it's 12 drivers. Jack Weaver didn't race today, so 12 drivers. I've got a good feeling about this one. I mean, Chenky got pole, so clearly Steven isn't just going to run away with this. Clearly, there's going to be a fight there. You've got Paul, obviously finished P11, but stuck it out to the end. You know, there's a lot of people who've joined the league over the years who would have just quit out and gone, oh well, I'm P11, I'm going to quit. I'm not even going to bother. Stuck it to the end. He knew anything could happen. So I think we've got how many did I say again? 13 good drivers this season. So hopefully, if everyone sticks with us and we get some more new drivers joining through the season, this could be a really fun one. I mean, I was there in the mix with Harry. Brian's looking a bit strong this season. He had the pace on me in the wet, which is really good to see. And no idea what happened to my brother. I mean, he apparently span in turn one. He just didn't concentrate for 1 second and went into the wall. And yeah, I mean, everyone's looking really fast. Everyone's looking really quick. It's not going to be an easy one. I mean, I don't actually know where Dan finished today, so I don't know if I'll be fighting him again this season, but he's got the head start if I am. So I think this season's going to be a good one. It's looking good. It started well, not necessarily for me, but as a league, it started well. Yeah, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, it's looking like a very, very good season indeed. And well, Max, have you got anything for Carl before potentially we continue our discussion off the broadcast and with a special guest that could have joined us this evening, but Owen decided to abandon us. But anyway, have you got anything for Carl?
Yeah, one from me, Carl. It's just pretty much, I mean, we spoke about the aims of the league as a whole, but what is your aims as a driver for the season? What are you expecting from this season? Are you expecting any podiums or a potential race victory at some point?
Well, firstly, welcome, Max. It's nice to have you here for our first race. I hope it was entertaining enough for you. But yeah, look, I mean, with this the quality of this field, race wins are going to be very difficult. I think podiums would be probably the best I could hope for this season, I'd say. I mean, they've obviously got the reverse grid sprints. So if I don't get great results between now and the first sprint at Austria, I think it is, then potentially a sprint win is possibly on the cards. But yeah, I think the quality of the field we've got this season, race win will just probably come down to a lucky strategy, maybe if I get on the dries at the right time. But outside of that, I think a podium would be the goal, would be the best I could hope for, I'd say, this season.
Yeah, well, thank you, and yeah, it was a very, very entertaining race, and you never know, you could see a potential race victory. It's racing; anything can happen. We've seen stranger things. So yeah, just enjoy your evening, and thank you for having me and choosing me to help with comms tonight.
Of course, thanks very much. Hopefully, we'll see you again.
Hopefully so. Right there, Joseph. That, I think, is going to be all, isn't it? Am I right? Or have we got one more to bring in?
I believe that's going to be it for this evening.
Aye.
As it's only Brian, Kyle, and Owen sitting in the waiting room. So that is us done, I think, for this evening and the debut race this season.
Yeah, the first race of the season is done. I'll go through your calendar once more. You won't be able to hear Joseph not actually set up his audio feed, so he can be talking the most random amount of waffle, and you won't be able to hear him. But we go to Japan for round 2, followed by Bahrain in round 3. Of course, Japan next week, Bahrain the week after. Then we head over to Europe for Italy, Austria, the first sprint, the first reverse grid race as well, before we make our trip over to Silverstone, Belgium, Netherlands, Baku, over to Asia for Singapore, then over to the Americas for USA and Brazil, before a final stint in the Middle East for Qatar and Abu Dhabi. But Joseph, what race are you looking forward to the most this season?
I mean, the Australian Grand Prix was always going to be the one I looked forward to the most because it was the season opener. But I mean, we've seen some dramatic races at some of these circuits, and Brazil has thrown up a few big moments. Texas as well, and I'm looking forward to those two. Belgium as well could be a very, very interesting one. And we've got an intriguing calendar, intriguing drivers, and we are going to be set for a very, very good season indeed.
Yes, we certainly will be. Of course, make sure you tune back in with Joseph next week at 8:30 UK time. So 8:30 PM UK time for Japan. I don't know if I'll be there or not, but Joseph certainly will. So make sure you join him for the rest of the season. Any last words before we head off, Joseph?
Thank you very much to those of you who tuned in. We've got very, very good numbers this evening, which makes me excited for the season to come ahead. Not just the drivers, but also you guys watching at home. And also thank you, Max, for joining this evening. I know that Southern Rail didn't make the evening very easy for either of us. And I'm glad that you were able to bring us a broadcast, and we were able to bring you what was a decent race around Australia. Hopefully no more hitches throughout the rest of the season, and we could have a brand new champion on our hands. So all very exciting in the Almost Pro Championship, and already looking forward to next week.
Yes, it should be a good one indeed. Public transport not only affecting people in real life, but also us in the sim racing community as well. But yeah, sorry about everyone about the maybe sort of scrappy start to the stream. It was very late notice to get the calls, and I got everything set up within about 10 minutes, so I had to sort some things out on stream. But other than that, it was a very good race and very good broadcast indeed. So make sure you tune in next week at 8:30 for round 2 in Japan. You'll be joined by Joseph to take you through all the action then. But thank you all very much for watching. This would not be possible without you guys. So we shall see you in the next one. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
The action's underway. Stamps' authority once again.
My word, this could go wrong.
On the brakes, goodness me, what a launch!
Look at that. It just all comes down to this.